Hey everyone, so I wanted to show you something. So this is a website called algoexpert.io. The specific purpose of this website is to prepare you for coding interview questions. So before you get a job, a full-time job as a coder, they're going to have you take a test. And a test is going to be something a little bit like this. They're going to give you a text description and they're going to ask you to solve the problem using code. Luckily, they'll let you use any type of language you want. Usually, today we'll be using Python because that's the language that I am most familiar with. Okay, so we've got two number sum over here. So let's take a look at the description. It says write a function that takes in a non-empty array of distinct integers and an integer representing a target sum. If any two numbers in the input array sum up to the target sum, the function should return them in an array in any order. If no two numbers sum up to the target sum, the function should return an empty array. Note that the target sum has to be obtained by summing two different integers in the array. You can't add a single integer to itself in order to obtain the target sum. You can assume that there will be at most one pair of numbers summing up to the target sum. Okay, so that sounds really complicated. It's got a lot of big words in it, but I'm going to show you how simple it is. What it's saying is we're going to input a list and we're going to input a number. And we're going to ask, hey, are there any two numbers in this list? Actually, I'm going to do 7 instead, just for fun. Okay, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 6, just some random numbers in a list, and then another number. And so this problem is asking, okay, are there any two numbers in this list that sum up to the second number? As in, if I take any two numbers in this list and I add them together, will they equal this number? So this is going to be the input to your problem, and then the output is going to be the two numbers that add up to this one, right? So remember, we have a list. A list is defined by brackets, and this is just a number. So can you think of any two numbers in this list where when you add them up, they equal 5? It's 2 and 3, right? So 2 and 3 would need to be our output. So we know what our input is going to be. This is what the tester is going to give us. And we know what our output is going to be. And so this is basically saying you can't sum a number twice. Like if we're asking for 4, the number 4 is the output. You can't sum 2 twice. You have to do just 1 and 3. Okay, so I'm just going to do one more example. All right, so let's do 1, 7, 9, 10, and then 8. So this will be your input, and you want to write a program that will give you an output. It'll say which of these two numbers summed up equals this. And so we can see 1 plus 7 is 8, and so our output will be 1 and 7. So that's a list as well. I hope that's clear. And one other case is if nothing will sum up to that number, like for instance, let's say 3. There is nothing in this list that is going to sum up to 3. There are no two numbers that will sum up to 3. And so we need to return an empty list like that. Okay, so now let's go about solving it. So how I did it is, I'm going to talk about this part first. I did an embedded loop, which means I have two loops. So what this part does is, let's say we have an array that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's say the sum that we had to do was 9. So what I'm doing right here is I'm looping through twice, and I am adding the numbers to themselves. So I think it might be easier if we pretend that we have two copies of the same array. Okay, so what I'm going to do is for I in range, length of array, what that's going to do is iterate through each piece of the array, and then I've got a loop inside of that for j in range length of array, what that's going to do is it's going to loop through each piece in the array. Remember, this is the same array. I'm just making two of them just so that we can look at it. Okay, so remember we had that condition. We cannot add a number just to itself. It has to be one number added to a different number, right? So I'm saying if I does not equal j, right? So if, this index position does not equal this index position because we cannot add the same number, then we're saying if array I, which is like, let's say it's this one, plus array j, let's pretend like that one, if array I plus array j, these are indexes, right, is equal to the target sum, which is this guy right there, that's the target, then we need to return the two position, or the two integers, two numbers that add up to this target. So we'll just return an array, a little list, right, with these two numbers if they turn up, if they add up to be the target sum. And if we find an answer, then we set this variable, which I defined at the top, we set this variable called answer equal to true. That means that there is an answer to this problem, right? So if there is no answer, if none of the array numbers add up to the target sum, then this will not go. This will not trigger, right? It's an if statement. So the ans will always be false unless we find an answer. So if ans is false, then we return just an empty list. Like we said, we have to return an empty list if there are no matches. But if there is a match, if an item in this array added to an item in this array is equal to the target sum, then we're going to return that item plus the second item. Okay? So let's see how this would go. Okay. So our input, you see array and target sum. Def means we're creating a function. So the input is the array and target sum is, this guy. That's the other one. We're inputting an array and we want to find out which of these numbers adds up to be 9. Okay, and we're going to define this variable as false. Answer equals false because we don't have an answer yet. Okay, so for I in range length array, we're going to loop through this one. And then for j in range length array, we're going to loop through this one. So let's try it the first time. So for I, so we're going to start on this one, index 0, and then it says for j, so we're going to start on this one, index 0. Both of these are at index 0, so it's 1 and 1. And then it says if I does not equal j, but I does equal j, because we're at index 0 for both of them, so we can't use that. So we're just going to skip everything under this if, because if the if condition doesn't pass, if it's not true, if this part right here does not evaluate to true, then we just skip everything under the if. And now you might think that we would go down to here immediately, but we don't, because we're still in this for loop, right? So everything that's indented belongs to this for loop. And so we're just going to go back up here again. So 0 didn't work out. So we're going to move along to the next index. So we're still at 0 index for I, but we're going to move to index 1 for j. So it's going to be 1 and 2. Okay? So so we're at 1 and 2, or index 0 and index 1 is, 1 and 2. Those are the numbers. If I does not equal j, so this time I is 0, which is, index 0. We're starting from 0. And j is equal 1. Okay, index 1, 0, 1. And 0 does not equal 1, right? 0, 1. Index 0 and index 1. So we can do this. We can run this if statement, right? So inside of this if statement is another if statement. So if array I, remember we're at 0, array I, so this evaluates to 1, plus array j, remember j, we're at index 2. So this is array I is 1, array j is 2, right, because we're at index 1. So that would be 1 plus 2. So if 1 plus 2 is equal to target sum, remember the target sum is the number that we put in at the beginning, 9. If 1 plus 2 is equal to 9, And we know that 1 plus 2 does not equal 9. So if an if statement does not evaluate to true, then we just skip whatever's underneath it, right? We skip all of this stuff. Okay, so we did a good job. We looked at these two numbers first, and it didn't work. Then we looked at these two numbers, and we got past the I does not equal j, but 1 plus 2 does not equal 9, right? So we don't pass this one yet. So we're just going to keep looping through it. So we go 1 and 1, then 1 and 2, still does not equal 9. 1 plus 3 is 4, that still does not equal 9. 1 plus 4 equals 5, that still does not equal 9. 1 plus 6, that's 7, that still does not equal 9. Okay, so then we've gone through all of the J's. We've gone through everything in this list. So we're going to move up 1I, right? We were here, now we're going to move up to 2. And then we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to try 1 and 2. 1 plus 2 is 3, that's still not equal to 9. 2 plus 2 is, oh, we can't do 2 plus 2 because we're going to get knocked out by this one. I cannot equal j, right? So this is not going to run. All right, so 2 plus 3, that equals 5. 2 plus 4 equals 6. 2 plus 5 equals 7. 2 plus 6 is 8. That's close, but it's still not our target sum of 9. So as you can see, we're going to loop through this whole thing until we get to a solution that works. So let's say we loop through it a couple more times, and then we go 3 plus 1 is 4, doesn't work. 3 plus 2 is 5. 3 plus 3 is 6, still not 9. 3 plus 4 is 7. 3 plus 5 is 8. 3 plus 6, oh, we've got 9. So how this is going to pan out is for I in range length array, that's index 0, 1, 2, right? Because we start counting from 0. So 0, 1, 2, those are the places in the list. Okay, so 2, I is 2. And then j is all the way over here. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, these are index positions. The fifth index position, this could be any number. This could be 36, 3 billion, but it's at position 5 in the list. Position 0, position 5. Okay, so then j is at position 5. So 0, 1, 2, I is 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, j is 5. So 2 does not equal 5, so we can go through with this, that's true. And then we say if array I, if array at position 2, 0, 1, 2, plus array at position 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if 3 plus 6 is equal to 9, and it does. So 3 plus 6, so array position 0, 1, 2, plus array position 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, we've got this one is position 5 and it's a 6. This one is position 2 and it's a 3. And if we add them together, 3 plus 6 is 9, right? So then we add up to our target sum. And so this returns true. And so since this returns true, we can run whatever code is underneath it. If an if statement does not return true, you just skip whatever's underneath it. But if the if statement is true, then you start running the code, right? So since this evaluates to true, 3 plus 6 is equal to 9, we're going to return this number and this number. And we're going to say answer equals true. Answer equals true is changing this variable, and it's letting our program know that we did find an answer. Okay, so this is going to be a list. It's going to say 3, comma 6. And then, so after we've run all of this, then we're going to come down here, and it's going to say if answer equals false, return an empty list. But we've already returned a real list, right? And once we did, we set answer equal to true. That's this variable up here. And after this loop is done running, then it's going to run this if statement. And answer equals true. So this whole statement is false. Answer equals false. It's saying if the word false is stored in this variable answer, then we're going to run this code. But what happened is when we ran all this code, we stored a different word in answer, in the variable ans, or it's short for answer. When we ran this code at the beginning, the word false was stored in answer, the variable. And then we ran this code and we found a match for the target sum, two numbers that summed up to match the target sum. And so we stored a different word in answer. We stored true, and it overwrites false. So then when we come down here, this is asking, hey, what variable or what word is stored in the variable answer? Is the word false stored in the variable answer? And we say no. And because we said no, we cannot run this code down here. But let's say there's a different situation. Let's say we could not find a match ever. Then this statement would not be satisfied. We never found a match, and so this code never ran. So at the beginning, we are storing the word false inside of the variable ans, or answer, and then it would run to the end, and then it's saying, hey, is the word false stored in the variable answer? And we would say yes. And so since we said yes, then we would run the code underneath, and it would just return a blank list. So there are coding websites like this. There's another one called LeetCode that you can use. And I'm going to click Submit Code. And ta-da! It passed all of our test cases. And we can look at the raw output. Here, if we want to, we can click on Run Code. And it worked on all the test cases. Awesome. Perfect.